So before we let everyone do the discussion, I'm just going to go over some of the normal housekeeping stuff that we do. Basically, is I always report on categories, and this month there was no new categories, so that's fine. Last month we had funeral celebrant service and vehicle wrapping service. So if you are working with any of those kind of businesses, you should double check your categories. Make sure you have the latest ones for you. We have four large updates that came in the last few weeks, basically. So I want to touch on those, and then we'll open it up, and everyone can start discussing what they think that means. So we have a new 3-pack display. This has been in testing for the last, I don't know, couple months, but now it's been basically turned on for everyone, and it's a lot more visible, right? So it's not buried under as many ads or organic sections. Normally now it's right at the top, much more visible, and the images are a lot more visible as well. So we'll discuss that with everyone. We had a lot of local algorithm update chatter, and rankings are going crazy, both for local SEO and for the organic. And so we're going to talk about what we think is going on and what we should do to adapt to that. The Google review filter is more strict. So Sherry and Stefan and I are in Google meetings every week, and they confirmed with us that there has been some tweaking, modifications going on with the review filters. And so there might be a lot more false positives that are getting basically ghosted. And so take a look at your listings. Take a screenshot, of your reviews, so you know how many you had, how many if you're losing it, because it's coming. It's not like boof, one shot. They're getting cleared out. You'll go check, you might have 50, and then the next day you might have 48, and then the next day you have 45. As the filter does passes, it seems that it's not all at once. So double check, and we record what you have so that you can go back and ask Google and say, hey, I had a lot more reviews. What happened to them? These are the ones that are missing. And that way it makes it easier for them to go back and check and maybe put some of them back for you, because you work hard to get those reviews. And the last thing are Google posts for hotels. So again, in our last meeting, Sherry and Stefan could confirm that they said, well, we think it's still a bug. We've been asking, because hotel posts have been kind of on and off since the summer, and they kept saying it's a bug, it's a bug, it's a bug. It's not intended. And finally, we asked, Tim Capper, another product expert, pushed them a little bit harder last week and said, we really think something is going on, that it's not a bug. And our communications person said, you know what, I'm going to check with the hotels team to make sure what's going on. And then 2 days later, there's a new Google support section that says, no, it's fine. It was not a bug the whole time. So some little bit of miscommunication to the Google product experts, because there's silos in a large company like Google, and not everyone was communicating the right way. So that's good news for hotels. At the end of the day, there's some restrictions on what they are allowed to post, what they're not allowed to post. So they can't post, offers and stuff like that. So, but that's interesting. And a lot of, there's been a lot of other stuff during the year. So I think Sherry had provided us with a good list. So she has a good handle of what we can talk about. Well, let's go over these 4 things first and see, especially the rankings. Let's start with the rankings to see what everyone thinks and what they're seeing with that kind of thing. I'm going to stop my screen share and just open it up for everyone now. All right.
Hey, Jan, Matthew had a question about the reviews, saying that he had a review come in this morning and it's not showing on his profile, but the client sent a screenshot of it appearing on their screen. Strange stuff. And where do I submit a claim to Google?
Yeah, and that's why I said they're ghosted, right? So the person who left it sees it, but it's not public. So that's the difference between completely removed, whereas the user leaves a review and then it gets filtered out and it gets basically deleted from both views. But ghosted is basically the user sees it, but it's not live. And so there might be different issues going on. Usually you could go to Google, go to regular Google support for that and see if they'll help you work through that one.
I'll jump in here if that's all right. Because I'm handling a lot of cases like this in the support forum. And I think it's a tricky thing for business owners because you're getting these reviews, you don't even know about them. And so you're only going to know that it's been posted if your client shows you a screenshot and lets you know that they posted it, but it's not publicly visible. So there's a bit of a challenge there showing up, like discovering that you are even missing a review in the first place. But then if you find that's the case, you can take it to the support forum. Like Jan said, you can go to support and you can try that for sure. But if support doesn't help you out, you can go to the community support forum and a product expert there can escalate it for you. Because I've found that the success rates of getting them reinstated are pretty high. A lot of them seem to be false positives in my experience. A lot of the reviews don't seem to have anything wrong with them. There's no profanity or any abusive language or anything that might make you think that it should get filtered out. And in my experience, it is a false positive and a lot of them are getting reinstated.
Also, Laura jumped in the chat and said that it can take a day or two. She sees after somebody puts up a review for that to actually go live. Is that something that you guys see?
Sometimes there is a delay. I've seen that as well. So yeah, you could wait 24, 48 hours. The system that handles reviews is, there's different servers, right? So sometimes the servers don't always communicate that, immediately. And so it is sometimes better just to wait before you go through the trouble of contacting support. You could wait up to 48 hours is usually any update that you make to Google. They say, wait 48 hours before you see it 100% live. And so you can always bank on that number just to wait. Right. Any other? So we can either keep talking about the reviews because that was an issue, but I think that's pretty much. I think Stefan covered a lot of it. It's not difficult, but there's just you just have to monitor more. That's the problem. You just have to keep on track of what's going on because you might be missing reviews slowly over time. So let's jump to the ranking or the three pack, whichever everyone wants to talk about first.
Hey, Jan, you know what?
Yeah.
I said earlier, my internet's down in the Midwest, so I'm joining the webinar from my phone. And what that means is today I'm not able to look at, really do Google searches and stuff on my desktop and see them. And so Steve was telling me that he's seeing a whole new configuration in the three pack. And when you jumped on, I was like, is this true? But I want to see it. Can we take a look at what's going on?
Yeah, I'll bring it back up. I had it on one of my slides, so let me present again so that people see.
And do you think that this is a new thing? Did you hear anything?
Yeah, it is a new thing. Google, I think, has pretty much confirmed that it's a new layout. And I think it looks better personally. Because the map is over to the right, and so it takes up less space when you're scrolling, especially like on a smartphone, I think. I don't know what everybody else thinks about it, but I happen to like it.
I happen to like it as well, too. I think it obviously gives a bigger map as well, too. So it gives an opportunity for somebody maybe to find out where they are better than they would if they were just in that horizontal small map. It made the pictures bigger as well too. So I personally like it, but it does remind me of 2011 when there was a 9-pack or something, and they were all sitting on to the left side.
I mean, back in the good old days when there was more than 3.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, isn't this like a throwing back to? I like that the images are larger.
Right.
For local businesses, this is where we can take advantage of, especially since when you're doing a search, I have a, not the best example up here, but if you type a search for a specific product, if you have an image on your listing that shows that product, it's going to show up on this 3-pack. And so that really helps with the click-through rate, because if someone's looking for something and they not only see the reviews and stuff, but they see a picture of what they're looking for, you're a lot more likely to get that first glance with, and that click. So I like that the images are bigger, and it's really helpful for people who are paying attention to their listings. And like DBA, we have our image uploads and we have our Swiss and the products all uploaded. So it really is helpful for businesses that are paying attention to their images to get more click-throughs.
I did notice, John, can you confirm, because I'm not seeing a lot of the same type of attribution that they were doing in the older version, mentioning that they talk about this on their website or in store or any of that. I'm not seeing those attributions showing up in this. Is that, you believe that those would show back up again at some point?
I don't know. So you're saying, like, I've seen a lot of they're called justifications where it says that
Yes.
it's pulling in reviews, or the post mentioned this, or in stock. Those are still showing up. I've seen them a lot because I was testing with some justifications just this week, and with service justifications, at least the services that you put in the listing. So is everyone else seeing less of that? Does anyone else have any comments on that? Because I didn't notice that. So that's interesting that you're saying that.
Yeah, I'm seeing less of that as well in the industries that I'm working in. But I'm also seeing where they show the listing. If you click on the map, say, and you pull up one of the listings that's on the left-hand side, they're adding some different information in there, such as the areas served. You can click on that and it expands, and it shows you all of the areas that are listed that business serves, if they're a service area business, which I don't believe was there before.
That was on mobile, but it wasn't on desktop.
Yeah, so now
it was there on mobile for a little while.
And then
Chadwin asked.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Sorry, Chadwin asked, no more blue check mark?
For
Can you hear me,
the
Jan?
blue check mark for which? I'm trying to understand what that.
I'm assuming it's those attributes that you and Steve were just talking about. Blue check mark, like when things are in stock or whatever, doesn't a blue check mark appear there? Maybe
yeah, I'm
not.
trying to remember the visual. Yeah. There's so many little justifications now, it's hard to remember, and Google messes around with them. So if there's less, that's something that I didn't notice because it's still new, and I didn't, I would have to go through old screenshots, I was so focused on the ranking changes that I didn't pay attention yet to the justifications yet. But 100% I know that the service justifications are showing up a lot more than they used to, because I've been playing around with that, and that's been fun.
That's the blue check mark. I just looked it up because I couldn't keep them straight either. The blue check mark is a services justification.
Okay. Is it? Okay. All right. So, and the algorithm update for the ranking changes. So some people are saying, I've seen a bunch of people saying that it has to do with reviews. So more reviews or velocity of reviews might have an impact there. But I'm also hearing someone else tell me that because the viewport of the actual map changed, so now the businesses rankings are changing along with the different maps. So Google basically changed the map and is making the area, the coverage area, tighter. So now you're seeing more businesses instead of like the same businesses that are ranking over a large area. Everyone's like bubble is smaller. And so you're getting more variability just because of the local, that the distance, the proximity factor has been changed. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I've seen, just for instance, my website's rankings on one day went up literally like 90 spots. Not just the local pack, and then went down the next day 90 spots, and then went up the next day 90 spots for like 10 keywords. And so I don't think it's just impacting like the local pack or the local finder. I think it's impacting just organic searches in general. And so it was just like huge swings, day 1, day 2, day 3. So I haven't figured out what's causing those changes. So I don't know that it's just reviews, because I haven't gotten, new reviews in between those days. So I don't know. I haven't been able to figure it out.
So you're swinging on organic?
Organic.
Okay. So the reviews wouldn't affect organic, but have you been checking your local?
Yeah, local, I haven't noticed any big swings.
Okay.
I'm looking at a case right now. It's a business that was ranking first for 2 really important keywords on the map, and they dropped 5 or 6 positions about 3 weeks ago. And I've talked to some other people who said that they've seen a similar thing about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the timing seems to line up there. And that does sort of align as well with this new layout of the SERPs. So it might be related to that. So the viewport might be a valid argument for that. The truth is, I don't know what it is, but they dropped 5 or 6 spots, and then the business that took their place yesterday was in 1st position, and today is in 4th position. So there's still a lot of turbulence happening. And this business that dropped easily had 5 times the reviews of anybody else. They've been focused, exclusively on collecting reviews for years, and they have a 4.8 rating, 700 reviews compared to the next best competitor, which has 200 or something. So in this particular case, I would argue that reviews are not the factor, but I mean, it's just one case, so it's hard to say. But it's definitely turbulent on the map right now.
I bring it up because I've seen a couple of people say reviews, but then we know that Google is tweaking the review filter. And so usually when Google is trying to tighten something up, I think they're still actively working on it, but it makes sense that we're going to make our reviews more legitimate. And so once we've tightened up that area, now we can rely more on it. And so we might make it more important in our algorithm, right? So but just maybe the fact that reviews are disappearing is just affecting the current way it is. So I hate when multiple things happen at once, or the view change, their filters are changing, and then now you don't know what to do. And like Stefan said, Google often does something, and then because they don't have a sandbox, right? Google doesn't have a sandbox, so they'll test in certain markets first, and then they'll just roll it live, collect tons of data, and then roll things back. And so as SEOs, we want to figure out what's going on, but at the same time, we wait a week or 2, because you could be doing a lot of work and then Google just undoes half of what you've been looking at. So we want to wait a little bit before we figure what's going on. So that's why we're kind of like poorly timed with this webinar, with these huge algorithm updates, to give a very, very specific answer of what's going on. We can say, kind of look at this, kind of look at that, and that's what we're doing now. But it's good to talk with different people here in different industries, because they're looking at different aspects. So it's super important to get a variety of ideas when we're trying to figure out what is more important now.
What would be very interesting. I'm sorry,
Michelle asked.
I was just going to say.
Michelle asked a question related to that. I know I have a delay. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Michelle asked a question about the new 3-pack display only working for certain categories of business, like restaurants and hotels. And she's asking if you think it's going to roll out to everybody. And I think you kind of were just talking about the fact that maybe Google rolls things out in a particular industry first, or in a particular area, or, you know, whatever they can do to kind of test it. So would you guys assume that, you know, that's going to kind of be the new display once they work their way through this?
Yeah, it's for other industries too. You know, if you search for other types of industries, I've seen it for other industries. So from what I understand, it's going to be the new layout. Everyone else hear the same thing?
And it's also different across multiple keywords in the same industry. Look at mattress stores and get one view, and then do mattresses near me, and get the old version of the Viewport and what we saw before in a vertical view. So I'm seeing it across multiple variations of a keyword phrase, being the old map versus the new map, showing reviews, not showing stuff. It seems to be, as Stefan said, is a lot of turbulence. I think it'll shake itself out and look exactly like what Jan showed, where it's more horizontal on one side and the map on the other. But I think right now they're just trying to figure out how to roll it all out.
I'm seeing it across. I just did a mattress near me, and yeah, I'm like, oh, that's the old way, but I haven't seen that very often. So I think it's going everywhere to the new style. I think everyone's doing searches and checking.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We are. What would be interesting to see is if any of the businesses that are having any turbulence with their local rankings in the local pack, if they have also had any reviews that have been taken out. That would kind of be an interesting thing to see. You know, if they're missing any reviews, if there's any correlation between that.
Yeah, for sure. December makes it hard to spend extra time testing and checking, because we want to have a holiday at the end of the month. So we got to fit all our work in. So this extra work by Google is making it frustrating to check what we really want to check. At least in my case, I don't know if everyone else is the same, but I'm like, oh, I want to check, but I really don't have time. Got to get my normal stuff done.
That's why they're rolling it all out now, Jan, is because they're trying to hit their end of the year goals, right? And they want to have a Christmas too. So
yeah. All right. Any other questions coming up, Sarah?
Yep, I do have a good question by Richard. He says he was a little bit late, so he may have missed this when talking about reviews. But he says, what about these programs or software where it asks the reviewer how many stars they're going to leave? So, and then if they choose a low number, they're directed to, you know, a different place, basically, to leave a review. He wants to know, does Google know that? Can they tell that it's happening? And can they look at those differently?
I'll let someone else pitch in, and then I'll have something to add after from experience.
Well,
he's testing you, Sherry. He's testing you.
He is. Well, that's called review gating, and it goes against Google's policy. I don't know whether or not Google knows that, but it pretty much goes against, I think, most of the review sites policies. So you're not supposed to not allow somebody to leave a low star review if you're using one of those tools. And essentially those tools that are gating like that, I think Google does know that those tools are doing it and knows which tools are doing it. So in that respect, if you are using a tool that Google knows blocks people from continuing to leave a low star review on your Google business profile, I think Google knows what those tools are. And in that respect, you could get in trouble if you're using that tool because it violates terms. So in my opinion, I would shy away from using a tool that does that.
Yeah, I caught like, so we check competitors sometimes. So I caught a competitor at one point review gating a dentist, and they had over 1,000 reviews. It was like 1,078 reviews. And I found proof. I sent it to Google, and they took 1,000. They took them all down. So they went from 1,078 reviews to like 22. So Google knows when you've started it, if you have proof, then so it's not actively pursued in that sense. But if you get caught, they're going to wipe you out. So there's, and there's something to be said for sometimes getting a bad review, right? A bad review on a listing doesn't mean that it's horrible. It means it's real feedback for your business, but it's also feedback for people who are looking. So if you're constantly getting bad reviews, you don't want them to show up. But at the same time, those replies from a business owner to those poor reviews do have some kind of effect on the user. And if you're always showing 5, 5, 5 perfect score, that looks a little bit shady, because every business is going to have some bad reviews, even if it's a crank bad review that doesn't make sense. You reply as the owner. It's like, hey, we don't have a record of you, or we're gonna do our best to help you out. Please call. And that customer service aspect sometimes will come through for other people looking at your review. So even some bad reviews are actually good if you're responding to them professionally, and you're really trying to you're responding not only for that person, but you're responding for every future person that looks at that listing and is reviewing. Can I trust this business? Are those reviews bad? And when you have some, are those reviews true? And if you leave a couple bad ones up, then it gives more of an impression that, yeah, well, there's some bad reviews on that listing. So therefore it makes all your 5s a little bit more trustworthy, because, well, they're not filtering, they're not doing fake ones, because, well, bad ones are coming in too, right? So I know there's manipulation all the time, but you don't want to always just, for gating is bad in that because it breaks the rules, but it's also for for trust. You want some of those to come through and replying to those.
And I think when this changed, like it's been, correct me if I'm wrong, about a year that this actually changed, or maybe a year and a half now, COVID time. The overall premise was like that you were keeping bad reviews off of your listing. However, if somebody's angry enough, they're just going to go around your tool or around your email or whatever, your landing page, and go to Google directly and still leave that review. So I think when some of these tools remove that as an option in their platform to gate, they didn't see like a dramatic shift of like, oh, now all the negative reviews are getting through. They maybe saw like a slight increase of those negative reviews happening, but negative reviews were already happening because people would go around the gate if they were really that upset. So again, back to Jan's point, like negative reviews aren't terrible. They're also signals of frequency, for example. So I would say, like, again, don't use a tool that's gating those reviews. It's against Google guidelines.
Google just published, I think it's in a help document somewhere, but basically summarizing that idea that people actually trust a profile with some bad reviews on it more than a perfect profile, which totally makes sense. You see a perfect profile and it does look suspicious. So, and just another note on the volume issue, review gating reduces the volume of reviews. And I think it was probably Mike Blumenthal did a study where they looked at turning off review gating, what the impact was. And the impact is, maybe you drop 1/10 of a point because you get a couple of bad reviews in the mix, but your volume goes way up, and there's something to be said for review volume as well. So gating probably isn't even an effective tool in the first place. Forget the fact that it's against the rules, right?
Donald asked a question about fake reviews. And he says he sees a lot of fake reviews on competitor GMB. Is Google doing anything about that? So obviously they're making changes to reviews, and so, but if you see some, a competitor who has what is fake reviews, I heard Jan say that he went to Google and reported that, and actually they did, take the reviews down. What do you guys suggest when, you see a competitor out there and that their stuff isn't right?
The first thing you have to do is you have to be able to prove that it's a fake review. And sometimes that's hard to do. So we have people come to the help forum and say, you know, my competitors have fake reviews, and you have to be able to go back and really prove that the review is a fake. Either it's a fake profile that left the review, or it's the only review they've left, or they've left reviews for, let's say, landscapers in 4 different states or something like that. So you have to be able to prove it, because if you can't prove that it's a fake review, Google won't take it down. So if you can prove that it's a fake review, then you can go to the help forum, and it's possible to ask one of the product experts to escalate it to Google. But again, we have seen instances where Google will not take them down, even if we can essentially prove that it's a fake review, if it doesn't violate terms. So it's really kind of difficult to get some of those reviews taken down unless you can absolutely prove that it's fake.
So Melvin has a follow-up question to that, which is, how did Jan know when or how a competitor is review gating?
Well, you got to test. You can go and try to leave a review for the business, or someone will send you a link, and then you go through their process and you screenshot it or you record it and you say, I'm trying to review this business from, you know, an email that they've sent, or, you know, and go through, record that process, and then you send it to Google and say, I'm being gated. I tried to leave a 1 star and it went here, and I tried to leave a 5 star and it went somewhere else. So that's what you have to do. Is actually,
so you have to be a detective.
Oh yeah, we are when we're dealing with reviews. Yeah, there's a new platform. I don't know the exact name. Maybe it's Review Fraud. It's from, I think, Curtis Boyd, and he has built a system that record, you know, it goes in, it'll follow all the links from all the people, and all, you know, this person has left a review on these kind of businesses, and, you know, they've left reviews in Europe and India and North America. Like, you'll see patterns of things. And so there's a new tool there that out there that will help you do that. So if you really think that a competitor has, and they have hundreds of reviews, and it would take hours of manual work to put that into an Excel spreadsheet and cross-reference and all that kind of stuff. So there's a tool out there that does that. And what you can do is you take that information, you don't tell Google that you use a tool to compile information. What you do is just put it on your own spreadsheet, say, hey, look, this is very, you know, suspicious. This person left reviews for 20 different service area businesses, 20 different plumbers all across the United States. That's fake, right? No one uses plumbers on their house because they don't have 20 houses across the whole. So you have to look for those kind of patterns. And then, but you have to be really, really explicit, because Google is dumb sometimes, and they won't take stuff down. So you have to be really, it takes a long time. So it has to be worth your time. And if you're just doing it for 5, you know, if they have 100 reviews and you're going to try to take off 5 of them, is it worth a couple hours of your time to remove 5 reviews from your competitor? Probably not, right? So, because removal of those reviews are not going to make them drop in rank necessarily. So it really has to be a really horrible, bad case for you to spend that time and effort to report, unfortunately.
Trustpilot, I think, is the tool you're looking for.
So DP asked, are there any recommended tactics in response to the Viewport changes?
I was hoping I'd learn that in the webinar today too.
It's still new. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to add besides what I said before. So I think that there's the proximity dial has been turned up, and so you have to be closer to the business. So now there's more businesses showing up, but that's the only thing that I have. What can you do about that? You can't do anything about the proximity. If you're a franchise business, or if you have, you know, basically the more listings are going to work better than one listing that ranks across a whole entire area. So if your business is structured and so that you can have legitimate listings, then do so. Maybe more practitioner listings. You know, if you're real estate, you don't want to have all your real estate agents have their listing all at your main office. Have them have their listings at their house, you know, at their residential, because you're allowed to as a practitioner. So things like that might come into play. Otherwise, it's hard to know what to do to counteract the proximity filter.
So Gabriel said something interesting, which is, it seems that the Viewport is changed to the new 3-pack with location-specific queries versus proximity-based queries. Is it possible that this might be affecting ranking? So first of all, do you guys see that? Do you think that's true, that it's differentiating between location-specific versus proximity-based? And then how is that affecting ranking?
So by location specific, I'm assuming, just to clarify for everyone, is that like because they're adding a town name in the query as opposed to just leaving it blank or saying near me? You think that's what that question is? And maybe Steve, since if you have done have you looked at your mattress, like the mattress store compared to mattress near me, how those two, maybe you have insights on.
Yeah, we had 500 locations to kind of pull from, you know, all over the US. So we can kind of, in Local Falcon, we track about 40 different keywords on a 9x9 grid for many of them. So we can kind of see what those look like. There doesn't really I don't really see any proof that like a location keyword in the query is seeming to make a broad difference, unless you're doing a really general term, like a big city or an area might impact it versus leaving it alone versus near me. So I don't see a lot of movement or changes there. Doesn't mean that it's not happening in other niches, but it doesn't seem to be happening in that industry yet. But in general, I noticed that if you search mattress Birmingham, you might pull a much different area, like the center of the city. And if you're not anywhere near that city center, then you probably would see changes anyway, or something different anyway.
Right, I'm typing here mattress. I did mattresses near me and I got the old style, and I did mattress store near me and I got the new style. So I don't know. And then I did mattress store in my town, and I got the new, and just mattresses with mattress town, and I got the old. So I don't see any patterns yet. What's the difference between mattress and mattress store? Store might be a little bit more like Google knows, so it's presenting the map right up high, whereas if I just say mattress near me, it doesn't know as much. I mean, it still makes sense that you're looking for a physical place, but it's not giving me the new style. I just think it's slow to roll out, and that's why we can't really gauge yet, because it's halfway. It's done halfway. Is it going to stay halfway, or are we going to go all the way? And so all these little differences that we're seeing now, I think it's too early to start doing an analysis. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing tons of fluctuation, so we're right.
Yeah, Marty jumped in and said he did the same thing. Search mattress near me again, it'll switch to the new 3-pack. So probably just too soon to say, why you guys are getting different results on similar searches.
Well, you'll look too. Is like you'll notice that the organic, earlier this morning it was showing pictures next to those listings, like it does in Google in the local map pack, but later on in the day it did not have them at all. So there's a lot of stuff going on the back end there.
I think that might be category specific though, Steve. I think that may depend on the category, whether or not an image shows.
Could be. Yep. Could very well be.
So here's a brief technical question, but Ruben was wondering if there's any recommended size for images that changes based on the new view.
There is I think there's general image sizes that Google has on their help document for like posts and stuff like that. I don't know that Stefan, do you know if there's any for just like photos in general? I mean, I know they have general guidelines for photos.
I think posts, they just say a 4:3 aspect ratio. And then for photos, they want 720 by 720, which is pretty low res.
Yeah.
Surprisingly low res. But I haven't noticed if that's changed at all. And it might, I mean, if this new 3-pack is using some sort of different image format or allows for a larger image, although it doesn't appear to, then they might change that. But right now it's just 720 by, which doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that I would argue it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get away with something else and you might find that something else is more effective for you. I have seen people say there are certain aspect ratios for the cover photo that make it look better and make it more likely to get picked up by Google as the actual cover photo on your business profile. And I've been able to upload images that weren't 720 by 720 and they show fine, but Google does say 720 by 720 square.
Thanks.
Here's another interesting technical question from Ruben regarding local search. What about local links? So sponsoring a little league team or a local school that will give you a backlink from your area, does that still matter for local?
Schools don't matter as much anymore. And actually, I think that can actually hurt a little bit because for a while there, a lot of businesses were trying to get schools or government links because they had higher authority with Google. But now I think it can actually hurt you because Google has kind of figured out that that's kind of a spammy way to try and get backlinks. And so I don't think it helps you as much as it used to. I don't know what everybody else's opinion of that is.
So what would be a good way to get backlinks if you're interested in boosting your local SEO, correctly?
Yeah. So from your Chamber of Commerce, for instance, also if you were to write for the local newspaper and write articles for that, or if you have any type of online business website in your local area, start writing articles for that type of publication online. So getting those types of opportunities, or if there's another business that is similar to what you do or complements to what you do, maybe write a blog post for their website and they write one for yours. If they're complementary businesses, those types of backlinks would be good.
I'll also add in there radio websites, like local radio stations. They tend to always be do follow. So they tend to pass some nice authority on. And because they're local to that area, they seem to give some real nice local relevance to a business. We do those a lot.
Cool. I guess that's that can be a little bit of work, but if you set up a system to do those things, find businesses that basically aren't flagged by Google as, spammy to get to share links. And then, writing obviously is the sort of the age old one. If you systematize it, that could be really powerful.
The other thing is podcast, be a podcast guest. And I know business owners are afraid of that, but that's a great way to get backlinks too. And you may be surprised to find podcasts that are in your niche. So for instance, an example I would give is if you're a plumber, try and find a real estate podcast and talk about what you can do to fix your plumbing and get your plumbing ready to go to sell your house. Those types of things. So kind of think outside the box and find podcasts that you can be a guest on, and then you get a backlink from there as well.
Cool. That's creative. I have one question for you guys. It's a tough one though. It's a philosophical kind of think back on 2021 question. based on all the changes that we've seen, and we've seen a lot in December that we can't even decipher yet, but everything that's happening, thinking back to the beginning of the year, what do you guys recognize? What do you foresee? What direction is local SEO going for Google? Based on this last year, what can you predict?
I'll throw in the fact that Google is really pushing anyway, to have business owners manage their business profile right from search or from maps instead of logging into what we used to call the dashboard. I guess now it's the business profile manager. That interface has been around for a while, but there seems to be a real push, and it's even hinted at in some of Google's documentation, talking about how they are encouraging all business owners to use that interface. And the messaging, the way you can use messaging on the web browser has become, made some changes there as well. So I see, this isn't really an SEO thing, but just in terms of managing your business profile, Google seems to be really pushing towards doing it all through that browser interface.
I think over the past year, especially, the focus on user experience is not going away. So even moving into 2022, Google's looking at implementing more into the performance and what is going to be included in Core Web Vitals. So they're looking at adding two more things in there that they'll be looking at and measuring. So having your website set up, having your user experience really well optimized so that people enjoy using your website, that's going to be key moving forward. So,
and I think that Google has different departments and different groups that are working on different things. So just like the Q&A is kind of separate from Google Business Profiles, they have Google Business Messages, which is different than Google Business Profile Messages. But you can see Google Business Messages on your Google Business Profile, which is all confusing. I think there are going to be other groups within Google that are going to create tools that will be implemented into Google Business Profiles next year. That's kind of my prediction.
Yeah, it's fun tactically. That does create weirdness in the overall strategy. You know what I mean? I think that's why we see so many collisions of things. And sometimes when we're trying to figure out what's causing it, it's actually two different departments rolling out changes at the same time, and then they are interwoven. So it does create some strange things, and it takes a while to shake out what the strategy is.
Well, and that's why, I mean, the Google Business Messages is basically like a chat feature that you can put on your social media, you can put on your website. It shows up as a chat feature on your Google Business Profile. And so I even emailed that team and said, why don't you call it Google Business Chat? I mean, don't call it messages because there's Google Business Profile Messages. Why don't you just call it chat? It doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah.
Well, just wait, Sherry, they'll change it. They'll change
they
it.
will.
Just when you get used to it and figure it out, they'll change
come
it
up
to
with a new name.
Yeah, something totally camouflaged.
Yeah. But I think that there's going to be more features that come out that are created by different groups that are going to kind of be implemented or integrated into Google Business Profiles. I think there'll be more of that next year.
Okay, I'm writing down all these predictions because in about 6 months, I'm going to pull them back out and see.
I think Google's emphasis on keeping you on Google rather than being a link to a website is becoming ever more important. I think that gets shown in how See What's in Store is helping with rankings in Google, My Business listings, and having products go to Merchant Center and having those products show up on the Google My Business listing so that something can get purchased on Google rather than on somebody's website. It seems to be a big push, and they're giving some preference to those brick and mortar stores who are actually putting products on Google That seems to be a trend that just seems to be expanding.
Yeah, and I can second that, add on to that. I think any type of transaction, if it's product purchases or like booking and some of those partner tools, that program's really growing. So I agree, like Google's going to be adding more features, whether it's like through third parties or adding it itself to keep you transacting from the profile.
Super. That's kind of what Sherry was saying. So I just want to add something to a question where if someone is seeing like less of the justifications, I just wanted to bring up that if you have certain attributes chosen on your listing, like in-store shopping or in-store pickup or online appointments, those kind of things, those will take precedence over other justifications like the review snippets or the service justifications that get pulled in. And sometimes those other justifications are more interesting to a user than just saying in-store shopping, for example. So you might want to look at removing, even though you have, in-store pickup and in-store shopping, maybe now with COVID, those are not as relevant, and you want to remove those from your listing, and then, just deselect them. And so that your other justifications from posts or reviews or mentions from your website, those kind of justifications show up on your listing instead. So maybe that's what that person, I forgot the name, who was saying, oh, well, there's less justifications from that, is because everyone has chosen those attributes and they're basically blocking out those other ones. So that's I just wanted to add that.